Do me for hold this L.
Hold this L.
Hold this L.
All right, welcome to Hold This L podcast with your boys Cappel and Lonnie. Lonnie, what's going on, man? How you
What
doing?
up? What up, bro? Having a good morning, getting an early start. Hey,
Yeah,
ready to rock and roll. How you doing this morning, man?
I'm good. You see, I got the shirt on. You the real MVP because you already know how it go down on Hold This L. It can only be one MVP of the season. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just letting you know, letting the world know that MVP is right here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. That's what I mean. I thought you was trying to tell everybody that I was the real MVP.
Oh, with my face, with my emoji on the shirt.
It say you the. It don't say I'm the real MVP. It say you the real MVP. So I thought you were talking about me. I thought you was trying to let the world know. Hey, my cousin beast at this, man.
I
He be
got you.
wrecking me, but had to give him his
Semantics.
love.
Semantics. I got you. I got you. Nah, man, you had a long night last night, man. How you feeling?
I'm recovering. It's slowly, surely. I got me a little energy boost this morning, but my nephew had his graduation party. Just graduated high school, so the family came down from Texas. We had a good time, real good time, man.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I sat in the house and just watched movies. Listen, I watched Half Past Dead. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was a movie with Steven Seagal and Ja Rule. I let you know how old that movie was. You probably did see it, but
Yeah,
it
I
was
just don't
good.
remember it.
Yeah, I didn't remember it either. I was like, man, it's been a while. Let me go ahead and catch up on this. And then I watched another movie called Hotel Artemis, which is a newer movie. I gotta watch that again because I was actually doing some work and watching it. It's one of those movies where if you're not paying attention, you miss like the premise of it, and it got confusing. But I need to check that one out again. But
Right.
it didn't seem like it was too good. I just sat up and watched movies all day, man. It was actually a good, relaxing day. So yeah. Anyways, we got a good show today. You know, a lot of sports information going on. Big news, huge news. Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs just signed the richest contract in sports history as far as the worth of it. Uh, so Patrick Mahomes, beast, hell of a quarterback. Um, he definitely is a gold standard for the quarterback position. But outside of Patrick Mahomes, the other quarterbacks, we got a lot of good young quarterbacks. And the conversation around Patrick Mahomes' quarterback for the most part has been how is this going to affect the other young quarterback stars in the league when it comes to their payday. And when we say young quarterback stars, we're talking about people like Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, heck, even Russell Wilson, he got his money, but he will have another payday because he is a beast and he's not slowing down anytime soon. You know, and there are a few others probably out there that I didn't mention, but those are the main ones. And so like, what do you think about that conversation, Lonnie? Like, will Mahomes' contract have a major impact on these quarterbacks when it's time for them to get their payday?
It will have an impact, in my opinion, but not a major impact. The kind of the baseline right now for quarterbacks, I think, is around 35 million, which was, I think, set by Russell Wilson a couple of years ago when he got that new contract. I think Patrick Mahomes is like an average of about 45 million, which just a lot of the things that I've been reading and everything, the way it's structured over a 10-year deal, realistically, the first 3 years of his deal, he'll actually make less money than Matt Ryan did in his first 3 years of his deal, and also Russell Wilson will in his, and also Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. They'll all make more money than him in the first 3 years of their new contract than he will. But the thing with going on with Patrick Mahomes' deal is the fact that the way they structured it. I'll give you an example. They have their signing bonuses. Matt Ryan in 2022 on the third day of practice or the third day of the of the season starting, his money is fully guaranteed for 2022. Well, on that same day in 2022, Patrick Mahomes' money is guaranteed for 2024. So they structured it to where he's going to be making a lot of money, but they structured it over a long period of time. And the thing is, I think the base will maybe go up to about 38 million for those guys like Deshaun, Dak, stuff like that. I think that'll kind of be the base area that they'll try to stay around. But the thing is, these teams are also going to be trying to get them to sign longer term contracts, which I don't think a lot of these players are willing to do. And from what I understand, it was one of the holdups with Dak Prescott is that they didn't mind paying him the money, but they wanted him to sign for a longer term, which he wasn't willing to do. He only wanted a 3 or 4 year contract. So, that kind of held it up. And that's one of the things about Patrick Mahomes' contract they don't realize. It's over 10 years, and it's really backloaded.
Yeah, I mean everything you say is factual. The contract is a great contract for the team. It's a good contract for Patrick Mahomes, assuming that he, is able to continue on the pace that he's on. This first year, he's only going to be making $10,000, like $10,825. You know, for the best quarterback in the league, that's crumbs. But that's what his salary is going to be, and then it goes up from there. But the thing is and I agree with you. It won't impact the star quarterbacks because when you look at the contract and how it's broken down, by year 5, his salary will be $37,000. So that's not much more than what the top quarterbacks are making right now. Um, and they're going to restructure his deal at about year 5. Right now, the way that he's being paid, they're going to be able to put pieces around him. They're not taking a cap hit. They're going to be able to put pieces around him. They're going to be able to keep the pieces around him. They're going to be able to pay Tyreek Hill. They're going to be able to pay um, Travis Kelsey. They're going to be able to pay, some of these young wide receivers that are good complements to them because they're on their rookie deals, and eventually those rookie deals are going to expire. And if they say they win 2, 3 Super Bowls, some of those guys might elect to leave if they've been having great seasons and go somewhere else for a super huge payday. But for the most part, they probably have a good case, to re-sign their players. Even on the other side of the ball, they may need to sign some defensive players. That's where they actually struggle, even though they didn't struggle as much last year. So they definitely did a good. Patrick Mahomes did a service to his team, but in regards to the other quarterbacks, the market was reset, but it wasn't really reset like people would have assumed that it was going to be reset with Patrick Mahomes. I wouldn't even, based off of a 5 year contract, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Lamar Jackson actually makes more than him when you look at years 1 through 5 for a Mahomes compared to what years 1 through 5 would look like with Lamar Jackson. Because check this out, after year 5, Patrick Mahomes makes 41 million, then 41 million. Well, I say 41 is really 42 when you round it up. 42 million and 42 million, then 59,950, which is basically 60 million. Then 45 million and then 45 million. Like that's the meat of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going from the years 6 through 10. So Kansas City probably will look to restructure his deal to allow them to again have, a cap friendly, be cap friendly to be able to continue to sign players. So I agree with you 100%. This does not affect the other quarterbacks much at all.
Yeah, you're definitely right on the restructure. I actually read something last night saying they will restructure his deal because right now the way that deal is actually like a pay as you go deal.
Pretty much, yeah.
So he's not getting just that all that guaranteed money like right up front, which would and you just see that big number of 503 million, but it's not exactly. You got to kind of look into it and dive a little bit more into it to see exactly what it all entails. And one thing I did want to correct myself on is that he's not making less than Jared Goff. He is going to be making more than Jared Goff slightly and slightly more than Aaron Rodgers, but less than Russell Wilson. And the thing is, you see that big contract, there's no way you think Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff would be making more than Patrick Mahomes over the next couple of years, or slightly less. Like, I mean, a couple of million. You wouldn't think that seeing that contract, but that's what it is. He's not making any more than most of the top paid quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but good for him though. You know what I'm saying? Because I think,
Definitely.
when you look at Tom Brady and how he restructured his contract, and he made a lot of money, but he was never the top guy. I think they probably looked at his how that affected Tom Brady, you know, as far as payday, and looked at Mahomes and said, well, we want to do something similar, but we want him to actually be paid more because his value, he's worth it. And they probably like, combine both of the methodologies. Let's make sure he gets his payday, but let's also make sure we are able to have a team that competes and pay the pieces around him. But speaking of Tom Brady is considered the GOAT by most people. I mean, at the end of the day, I give him the edge over Joe Montana, but it to me is not hands down. It's just not. But the real conversation is, will Mahomes eclipse Brady as the GOAT? Now, this is a very premature thought because Mahomes is so young and he still got a lot to accomplish. But will he? I mean, will Mahomes eventually eclipse Brady as the GOAT?
It's a simple answer for me. Honestly, I don't even have to say it's too early to talk about it. It's a simple. If he say healthy, no doubt. He's had the fastest start of any NFL quarterback in history with the things he's accomplished. He's been in the league 3 years. The first year he didn't play. The second year he's the MVP. The third year he wins the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't see what there is to debate. And if you paid attention to the playoffs this year, let's keep in mind he was down what 24-0, 17-0, I think 18-0, three straight games and won all of them. Give me another quarterback that would do that in year three. I mean, he's already doing goat like things, and he's only in his third year. Give him 15. Dude,
Yeah.
he's going if he stays on the pace that he's on right now, he'll shatter Drew Brees' passing record. He'll shatter the touchdowns records. He'll shatter everything. I mean, it's not even going to be close. And then he got Andy Reid alongside with him, who like to fling the ball and do all the things that a quarterback loves to do. Oh yeah, it's going to be hands down. Then he can run with the ball.
Yeah. So I think that he will eventually eclipse Brady, assuming, the normal things happen in the football league if you have good management. This is what I think people are missing when they look at now and then they evaluate Mahomes over the course of a season. I mean, a year. Mahomes clearly is a better quarterback than Brady ever will be. That's not even up for discussion.
Right.
Mahomes now, when Brady was Mahomes' age, couldn't touch him. I mean, he just couldn't. He just physically gifted, but he also has that leadership gene that Brady has. He also has the mental capacity to lead and carry a team that Brady has. So because he has that Aaron Rodgers like physical ability, but better than Aaron Rodgers, and then he can lead like Brady. He already is better than Brady from a physical quarterback perspective. But when you talk about greatest all time, you got to talk about accomplishments. What is going to determine if he's better is considered the GOAT over Brady? It's not Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of factors. Team management is the main one. How is this team going to consistently keep people, bring people in, sign free agents, to want to play for them, or are they going to draft well consistently over the years? That's the part that people never really wanted to give Bill Belichick for. They want to look at Belichick and Brady and say, well, if it wasn't for Brady, they both played their positions. Belichick drafted excellently. He managed that team excellently with the way he signed players. He let players go where most people thought it was too soon, but it all worked out. They was always able to find players in free agency and they drafted well and those players did their jobs. And yeah, you can say that sometimes the defense wasn't great and that was his specialty, but the defense for the most part got the job done. And they only, they failed a few times, but overall 6 championships out of 9. So if you take away that excellent management of the team and that culture that was brought there, Brady don't have no 6 Super Bowls.
No,
So so will Mahomes, will Andy Reid and the Kansas City organization be effective in that part of the game? And so with looking at it from that perspective, I still think yes. because because Andy Reid is a smart quarterback. He understands what his role is, and that's offense, and he is an offensive wizard. If they can, and he's also the general manager. I think I could be wrong on that, but I think he's the general manager, which means he plays the same role as Bill Belichick. Now, if you look over the years with Andy Reid with Philly, excellent, which is why his teams always competed. They went to the NFC Championship, several times and never got to the Super Bowl except that once, but they competed at a very high level. And one of the reasons why they would lose is because they would have some kind of defensive snafu. It wasn't the offenses, and he didn't have weapons like he has with Kansas City. He never had that amount of weapons. So, I feel like based off his past and how he was able to run his teams, and what he has now with the youth that he has and how talented they are, yes, Patrick Mahomes will become the greatest football player. He doesn't even have to win more championships than Brady to me. I feel like if he wins about four and he goes to 5 or 6 Super Bowls, to me, that is enough to eclipse Brady because you have to think about all the other things that go along with the conversation. This is not basketball. This is football. There's too many other you know, um, there's too many things. I'm gonna say things. There's too much that goes into winning championships. But yes, so a long explanation for a simple answer. Yes, Mahomes will eclipse Brady as the GOAT.
Well, I just want to kind of chime in on what you said about Brady and the 6 championships. And Belichick's defense weren't always great, and you're right. But let's remember, their offense wasn't always great either. Their first 2 Super Bowls came off of defense and special teams, running back punts, returns. I think one of the Super Bowls they won, they had 14 points. I mean, I think the score was 14-7 or 14-10 or something like that. So, I mean, if you think about those first 2 Super Bowls, and we got to remember the Tuck rule. So, I mean, those first couple of Super Bowls, it was not won by Tom Brady's arm or Tom Brady's knowledge or anything that has to do with Tom Brady. It was purely won on Bill Belichick playing defense and Tom Brady not making mistakes. That's what it was. It was all those first couple of championships were all Belichick. Those defenses were stout, and their special teams was real stout. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Troy Brown. I think in one of those playoffs, or if it was either not the AFC Championship, it may have been the Super Bowl. Man, he returned 2 punts in one game. I mean,
Yeah.
all their scoring came off of special teams. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown. I think they had a field goal. Tom Brady drove them down to kick a field goal. I mean, and it was like 17-14, and those 14 points came off of punt returns. So, I think Belichick should get a lot more credit because, to be honest with you, the best offensive season Tom Brady ever had, they lost the Super Bowl to the Giants. That were seven
Yeah.
and nine that year.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, defense wins championships. I strongly believe that, and I think that was a big issue with Andy Reid. In the past, is the defense has made some snafus, but guess what? Even though he did have good offenses, he didn't have a Patrick Mahomes to be able to fix some of those snafus that the defense made, which he has now, as we saw this past year in the playoffs when they were down 24 nothing and stuff like that. Those Eagles teams wouldn't have recovered from that with Donovan McNabb. No knock to Donovan McNabb or whatever, but they don't recover from 24 nothing in the first quarter to come back and win any of those games. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I mean, Andy Reid, you give him weapons, he gonna make things happen. You got to remember when Philadelphia did go to the Super Bowl that year, they finally had a superstar wide receiver in Terrell Owens. Prior
Mm-hmm.
to that, they had a lot of, like they didn't have star players. Never had any star receivers
Right.
besides Terrell Owens. You could say Brian Westbrook was one of the better running backs, but he was never really considered a star running back.
He was a
Um,
scat back.
yeah, and so then they got LaShawn McCoy. Now LaShawn McCoy, you can consider him a star running back, but he could only a running back can only do so much. But I mean, so when you just really think about it, um, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes gets accolades, but you also got to remember he does have Tyreek Hill, he does have
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelsey, he does have McCole Hartman. That's a speedster. You know what I'm saying? And they just signed, and then they just signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and
Ooh, ooh,
he
ooh,
is a
ooh.
beast. I see that
Yes,
LSU helmet in the background. We both rep LSU. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a beast. And the running back that they have now, his name escapes my memory, with Damian Williams. He is good, for what they use him for. So they are loaded, absolutely loaded. But yeah, so Patrick Mahomes will eclipse, Brady. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited about it because Tom Brady, he has Mike Evans now. He has Chris Godwin. He has Cameron Brate. He has Gronk. He has OJ Howard, and the running game is actually fit for what he needs. That that short, that 3-step drop, passes to your wide receiver, screen pass, screen play type offense. That works well with the running back they have. So I think that it's going to be interesting watching Brady with a team full of weapons, something that he's never had before as well. So NBA, we almost there, man. We almost there. It is July 12th. We got about 2 weeks left. The NBA players are in the bubble. They are in Orlando. You excited?
bro, I'm super excited. It feel like it's not coming fast enough. You know how you just sit there and you sit and watch paint dry? That's
Yeah.
what I feel like I'm having to do right now, waiting on the NBA season to start back. I mean, and the crazy thing is the month is moving pretty fast, but it feel like the 31st can't get here quick enough. I know we just got into July, but man, it's like I just want to go to sleep, wake up, and tomorrow's the 31st, and
Well, you can't be
everything will
taking, you
be
can't be
back home.
taking, you can't be adding extra days, man. It's actually the 30th. Don't push it to the 31st. The first game is July 30th, so give us that day. You know, like you say, the days are already moving slow.
Hey, well, no, you're definitely right about that. I definitely don't want to give no extra days because you're absolutely right, man. I cannot wait, man. I'm amped up. I'm ready to get back on FanDuel. I mean, I'm ready to just watch some sports in general, watch some basketball. Of course, I'm ready to see my Lakers win the championship, which is definitely gonna happen. Um, you heard it here first. I'm telling y'all, they will win. It's not a they may win. They will win. Anybody got a problem with that? Come see me.
Well, we're gonna have a conversation in a few weeks when we get closer to that start date, on who we think our picks for the finals is gonna be. So we already know what your pick for the finals is gonna be on the Western Conference, but save it for the Eastern Conference
I
so we
got
can have that
excited.
discuss. Yeah, save it for the Eastern Conference. But yeah, that's gonna be an interesting conversation. Speaking of basketball, so there's been some headlines in the news of a core maker, 5-star recruit signing with Howard University and HBCU, something that is unheard of, and you haven't seen anything like that happen. I don't recall it happening ever, but I haven't been alive forever, so of course they may have had top notch recruits sign at some point, and I just wasn't aware. I didn't do any research on it to see, but I know it's something that's not popular. And of course, a lot of this has to do with what's happening with Black Lives Matter movement. Um, Players realize they have power, even all the way down to high school. You know, Mikey Walker, that's his name. Isn't that his name?
Williams, Mikey Williams.
Mikey Williams. I think he's the top basketball player in the country, or he's definitely one of the top. He has come out and said that he's, going to go to an HBCU. He hasn't committed to anywhere yet, but I really like 5-star recruits going to HBCUs. Do you think they can change the narrative of how college? And I'm specifically talking about basketball. Football is another beast, but specifically basketball. Do you think they can change the narrative of how colleges are seen when it comes to high level sports, high level basketball?
Man, it's kind of hard to say. Like I said, I think, like you said, if they can get some of those 5-star recruits, and because one thing we all know is most people are followers. So I mean, if you can get a couple of those 5-star recruits to actually come, like Maker going to Howard. Let's say Howard ends up in the Final Four this year. Yeah, you're gonna have people that want to go play for those guys. But that's what I think it'll boil down to. You got these top recruits, even if they do go to those HBCUs, if they go there and they're not very good, it's actually going to turn the top players away because that's one thing they want. They want to be seen. And that's another thing. Are these HBCUs going to spend more money on television? playing bigger schools, doing things like that, because these kids want to be seen. And that's the thing you have that I understand when it comes to sports, especially when you got college recruits. You got to sell them on coming. You know, a lot of them I do understand, like Maker, they will come just because it is a black college. But a lot of kids are not going to do that just because of that. You know, a lot of these kids, man, they trying to make it to the league. They grew up poor. They grew up like this. And the thing is, if somebody asks me, do I have a better chance of getting the league if I go play for Duke or if I go play for Howard? The answer is always going to be Duke, unless something changes first. I don't think it's going to just happen. I think it'll have to be a movement, kind of like what's going on, like with Maker. If Maker goes to Howard and they go 25-2, they reach the Final Four, or they get to the NCAA, not even to the Final Four. They get to the tournament. They compete. They maybe even get to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight. That's when you'll have other kids wanting to follow suit and saying, "Okay, we can do this." But I think it's about most people are followers, and I just feel like most kids aren't going to jump on that bandwagon, or are not bold enough to jump on that bandwagon until they actually see that it works.
Yeah. The simple answer, can they change the narrative? Of course. The majority of our superstars that make it to the majority of the athletes, forget superstars, the majority of the athletes that make it to the league and basketball and football are African American. They're black students. They're black people. So in colleges, for the most part, the top programs, the highest percentage of football, even football, are black students, but definitely in basketball. But because it's so much widespread, you do have a higher percentage of white students and students of other nationalities play, but it's still vastly dominated by black students. So if the top recruits decided to go to HBCUs as a group, that's what would really change the narrative. Think about the Fab Five or UNLV, where you had like a group of kids, a group of students coming out of college within junior and senior year commit to one school, and that school becomes dominant. UNLV didn't sustain it because they didn't have the recruiting power. Michigan didn't sustain it, but then they are coming back, but they didn't really sustain it because it just didn't happen that way. Those high price, high but Michigan is considered a top school. But if an HBCU was to get McCord Maker, Mikey Williams, and two other top 10 recruits, they will find themselves in the Sweet 16. I mean, not Sweet 16, but in the tournament, and they will probably find themselves in the Final Four. It is very realistic, and that would open the door for other students. This is the problem, and this is what nobody is going to really talk about because you don't have proof of it until it comes out. Zion Williamson was accused of a agency. He's being not accused. He's being sued for $400,000 because they're claiming that he signed with them and that they gave them $400,000 the senior year before he went to Duke, and he promised, of course, to sign to be with them, and then of course he changed his mind when he got to college, which he has a right to, but he's not supposed to take money because then that makes him not an amateur. So that's really the issue. I'm not going to talk about that specific issue, but the real issue is these colleges, they have these booster programs, Duke, Kentucky, even Michigan, just these top five, these top tier programs. They have boosters that pay students, families, thousands of dollars to go to these schools. And these HBCUs don't have that kind of money. They don't have those
Right.
kind of boosters, and it's hard for you to tell a kid, "Hey, sacrifice this money that they know they're going to be able to get as a recruit to take care of their families," because most of these kids are not rich. A lot of these
Right.
kids' families are. I'm not going to say poor because I don't know the statistics on the families, but I can tell you that they're not rich. And when it comes to something like that, it's hard to, you don't want to sacrifice. Your parents are thinking about themselves. Like, even if they have NBA superstar potential, who wants to wait a year because you could get hurt? You may not ever make it. And now you go
Right.
sign at a HBCU and you get hurt. And now your career may be over because you get seriously injured and your family got nothing because so that's the real question. That's not the question. That's the real issue is it's hard to walk away from, knowing that you're going to be able to be taken care of because it is a problem across the NCAA. And I say a problem, I think it's right. I think those players should take the money. But I say problem because it taints the system. Because the only schools that are able to really do that at a high level are those schools that have these millionaires supporting their schools, as far as the booster clubs that's willing to donate this money and give this money so their programs can continue to thrive. And those programs bring in millions to billions of dollars a year because of what they're able to capitalize off the likeness of those particular players. Zion Williamson brought in, if he took the $400,000, he deserved it, but he deserved more because Duke made millions off of him within half of a year of him being there, which is
Right.
not right. Which is another conversation for another day.
Right.
but but if they decided to go to HBCUs, they would run the NCAA. It's not even a question.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just a matter of them sacrificing. That's what it would take. It would truly take them sacrificing and saying, I know that I'm not going to be able to receive the accolades monetarily that I would from other going to another school as far as booster programs, but this is what's best for my people and HBCUs to bring them on a level playing field. And that would be a wrap, straight up.
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right. And see, and that's my biggest issue with it is the sacrifice.
Hmm.
Who's going to be willing to make that sacrifice? And that goes back to what I was saying about people being followers.
Yeah.
You see a couple of people make that sacrifice and they benefit from it, then more kids will be willing to make that sacrifice. But until you see, I mean, you can't blame them for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying they should just be leaders and just follow, make their own movement. No, I mean, it's just the majority of people. It's the reality in the world. Most people want to see that things work before they just jump into it and decide they're going to do that. So you don't just have a lot of people that go off the cuff. So if you have a couple of these kids go team up, like you even talk about the Fab Five, yeah, we saw that, but that was so long ago. And even with them, they didn't go to HBCU. They went to a Michigan, and it goes back to your point, which what I was saying about a Duke and a Howard. Go take a trip or have a tour at Howard for that kid, and then take that kid to Duke and have a trip or a tour for him going to Duke. They're kids. You're doing you're not, I don't think it's even just the money factor. It's the fun, it's the facilities, it's all that. You're showing this to children. And I mean, it gives them that wow factor. And I think that has a lot to do with it also. I think that wow factor tends to make kids sway it one way or another. But the money does have a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I only disagree a little bit with what you said about the wow factor. I don't think the wow factor has anything to do with it with these kids going to visit. I think the wow factor, if you're comparing a Duke to a North Carolina to an Ohio State to a Michigan, then yeah, the wow factor matters because the presentation is probably has something to do with their final decision because they're going to be getting the same offers. If all five of them have boosters, they do have boosters, but if all five of them saying we're gonna give you this, we're gonna give you that, the agency saying we're gonna give you this, gonna give you that, they have those offers on the table. Then it's gonna just narrow it down to what's my best choice. Who I think is gonna take the better care of me, who's gonna make the championship, who's got the best, coaching pot, like stuff like that. But then when it comes to Howard and like comparing Howard and the Duke, I don't think it's about the wow factor because schools like Howard, they have money to bring a recruit in and show them a good time. And I mean, Howard is in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
to tour a person around the campus and the facilities are not like super top notch like Duke's, but their facilities are not bad. I don't think it's much drop off. I don't think the wow factor is that big of a deal when you're looking at an HBCU compared to Duke. In the forefront of the mind of any student, they're going to look at Howard or an HBCU in general and ask themselves a question: can I even make it to the league on this team? Because they're not going to get the same exposure on television. They're not going to be up against the best competition because most of the best players are going to be playing at the top notch programs. So the question is, yeah, they're going to dominate. But look who you're playing against. We don't know how you would look against the best competition because you never got there. Now, unless they took their team to a championship and won it
right.
all, then that would kill all the noise. But if they didn't do something like that, then that's going to be a question. And I think they have people in their ears. They have family in their ears. They have friends in their ears, like pointing those things out as well as thinking it themselves. because there's such a drop off in competition, I don't think the wow factor really matters at all when it comes to that comparison. But if you're talking about the schools that compete with each other, I think the wow factor definitely has much more of an impact. Yeah.
And let me clarify that wow factor, what I mean by that real quick, because I want to make sure I make it clear that I'm not saying that the HBCUs are not as nice or anything like that from these other schools. What I mean more or less by the wow factor is the amount of money and the things that they're willing to do to bring that
Yeah.
kid or convince that kid to come. You got a Howard that, yeah, they're gonna show him a good time and all that, but are they going to spend the kind of money to show him a good time that a Duke or this person is going to, or this school is going to spend? He goes on a trip, and this team, the Howard may spend 100 grand showing him a good time. He go to Duke and they spend 1 million. That's the wow factor that I mean. Not saying one's necessarily nicer than the other or one's better than the other, but just realistically, one school has more money and has more people supporting the cause, which allows you to give a bigger experience. And when you're doing that to 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, they pay attention to stuff like that. You can win over a kid with money, which we all know, which is more or less what I mean by the wow factor. You can just show him more,
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
I mean by that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. We'll see what happens. I think Mikey. I think Mikey, his decision may have a lot to do with how other students, make their decisions going forward. Especially if we have a season and like the teams that McClure makers on or Mikey, Williams, like whatever schools they go to, if they make some noise, then we may have a real conversation coming up later. What's your fantasy, man? Let's talk fantasy, bro.
Um, well, we got the Memorial coming up this week in golf. Tiger's gonna make his first appearance this year. Basically since the COVID and everything, so he's back in action. I'm gonna give a couple of picks. I want to do about 3 or 4, to be honest with you. I looked at a couple of different things, and just some of the people that I looked at this week. I always have a problem with his last name, so excuse me with it. But Bryson DeChambeau, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but he's had 4 top 10 finishes in the last 4 tournaments. And he also won the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So I think that he's hot. Somebody you want to look into. Definitely have him. He's going to be playing in this tournament. You definitely want to look at the winner from last year, which is Patrick Cantlay. Those 3 guys, I think you definitely want to kind of keep an eye on. And of course, Rory. Rory, like I always say, I'm pretty much going to name him almost every week. He's #1 in the world. He's playing great. I think he could have a good tournament. It's a lot of good people. Adam Scott. It's a lot of good people playing in this tournament this week. This upcoming week. Jordan Spieth, Phil Mickelson. Another one that I want you to keep an eye on, people. Justin Thomas. He hadn't played great the last couple of tournaments, but Justin Thomas is strong. I mean, really one of the strongest. Top 5 is somebody you definitely want to keep in your look at your lineups. It's a lot of big names playing this week, and it's going to be pretty star-studded, so you're going to have some options to pick from. But definitely DeChambeau, he's on a roll. McIlroy, Woods, and Cantlay, those are going to be my top 4, but there's plenty to pick from, guys.
Okay, cool. On the fantasy, when it comes to basketball, we still have a couple of weeks, but I want you to keep in mind some sleepers that are probably going to be some high plays, but you still want to keep in mind that these players have been signed and that they probably going to get some good run. Deion Waiters with the Lakers, probably going to be a good pick, to supplement your lineups. J.R. Smith again, another player with the Lakers, and then Brooklyn made some news. They signed Jamal Crawford, and they also signed Michael Beasley. Now those are 2 scorers, two dudes who can put
Yeah.
the ball in the basket. So when you're making your lineups, when you're getting ready, make sure you keep those players in mind. Jamal Crawford, I know that he's typically been a 6 man. Pay attention to how the Nets use him. They have a lot of people that are not playing. Spencer Dinwiddie is out. Of course, Kyrie and Kevin Durant have already been out. DeAndre Jordan is out. I think Wilson Chandler is out. Tarion Prince is out. So they have a lot of missing players that normally get a lot of run. Also, pay attention to Joe Harris. He always gets run, but he may become more of a scoring threat now and more of a like a rebounder, that type of player, because they're gonna be missing some players. So, keeping think about that when you're making your lineups, because that value is gonna play a critical piece into determining whether you win $5 or $100,000. All right. You got anything else,
Yeah.
Lonnie, before we get out of here?
Um, don't have a whole lot. I do want to add a couple more people that you were talking about. From the Brooklyn Nets, just to kind of throw it out there. First of all, Michael Beasley coming there. I'm gonna tell y'all, Duke is a fantasy machine. He can put up numbers and he can put up numbers fast. But another person I just wanted to kind of mention that will be a very cheap, low-level pick is Radion Caruso. When he gets some minutes, he actually can produce pretty well. So that was just another person I wanted to throw out there for people. When you were talking about the Brooklyn Nets, I just wanted to kind of put him out there because he can be a real good fantasy piece to help you build your lineups around when everything gets started.
Cool, cool. Well, that's all we got for you today on Hold This L. I'm Cappel, and this
Lonnie.
is, and we out. Y'all have a good day.